Hello everyone, you have come to Tata Comic Preview channel. Let read together. Have fun. This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. Zhou walked over with his hands on his back. He descended the stairs and stepped on the limestone plaza. He walked past the cracks on the floor. The others instinctively parted to the sides to make way for him. Zhou loosened her grip, and the walking stick fell away from her. As a result, the script seals faded away immediately. She curtsied before saying, "At last, we meet again." Zhou's expression was as indifferent as usual. When he saw Zhu's stooping figure, he could not help but sigh inwardly. Some things remained the same, but the people had changed. Time had not been kind to her. So many years had passed in just a blink of an eye. The Confucian sect elite, who was once a mighty, rare stone-cold fox in the cultivation world, was now a gray-haired old woman. "I see that your temper remains unchanged even after all these years. Sorry to disappoint you." Zhou swept his gaze across his disciples and said, "Well? Greet Senior Zhou." The other bowed and saluted Zhuyu. Zhuyu waved her hand and said, "There's no need." She looked at Zhou and said, "Although I'm from the Confucian sect that's bogged down by rules and protocols, I've never cared much for them." Zhou nodded. "One doesn't visit a temple without a cause. What brings you here to my place?" "I'm here to ask for an explanation regarding Fengqinghe." "An explanation?" Fengqinghe was the master of the Zhensong branch. "All these years that I've been living in the valley, the Zhensong branch has looked after me. Now that something has happened to Fengqinghe, I can hardly stand aside and do nothing," Zhuyu said. Zhou did not reply immediately. Instead, he walked toward higher grounds nearby. Zhuyu understood Zhou's meaning. She followed him and stood next to him as they looked down at the foot of Golden Court Mountain. Zhou pointed at the foot of the mountain and said, "There lies the corpses of those from the 7 great sects." Zhuyu was shocked. When she had passed by earlier, she merely felt the ground was uneven and there were many signs of a battle. Not a blade of grass could be seen at all. "Fengqinghe should have been among them," Zhou said coldly. Zhuyu asked in disbelief, "So it's true that the 7 great sects attacked Golden Court Mountain?" Zhou sighed and said, "You've been staying in the valley for a long time and are oblivious about the affairs of the outside world. Is it possible that during your journey here you didn't speak to anyone about this?" Well, she truly did not speak to anyone. Otherwise, she would not have arrived here travel-weary and insulting everyone due to her crabby mood. She had roots in the Confucian sect, and reason was held in the highest regard. If reason was on her side, she would travel the world without fear. If it was not, she could hardly take a single step forward. Zhou rendered Zhuyu speechless in just a blink of an eye. It was just as Mingxirin had said, it was Fengqinghe who attacked Golden Court Mountain. In that case, the one who should be demanding an explanation should be the evil Sky Pavilion, not her. Zhou's disciples nodded, impressed by their master. The same words, coming from a different person, would have a starkly different effect. Mingxirin asked furtively, "Did you notice that Senior Zhou seems humble in front of Master?" Yes, little Yuan replied. "This just shows how awesome our master is," Zhu Honggong said. Flattery is second nature to this dimwit. Zhuyu was not bothered by the junior's discussion. Instead, she asked in confusion, "I remember your great limit is close at hand. I didn't expect you to be as spry and majestic as before. How did you defeat your enemies, Brother Ji?" Under normal circumstances, it would have been impossible to win against the 7 great sections. It was clear Zhuyu remained doubtful about what she had been told. Zhou did not withhold any information from her as he calmly said, "To tell you the truth, I'm now at the 9-leaf stage." Zhuyu's aged eyes widened. The wrinkles on her face twitched as well. Her facial expression changed drastically before it settled on one of disbelief. It was an entertaining sight to watch. I'll never believe you, you wretched old man. She looked at Zhou and said, Brother G, do you think that I'm gullible? Zhou did not care if she believed him or not. He glanced at her and said, if it weren't for old time's sake, the damage you caused to the limestone floor alone would have been enough to earn yourself a death sentence. Although Zhou's tone was indifferent, it sent shivers running up everyone's spines. They felt cold as though the temperature in the surroundings had drastically dropped. Zhu's old body shivered despite herself. Even a proud daughter of the heavens such as herself would have to lower her pride before Ji Tiandao. She bowed before she asked, did Feng Qinghe die in vain, then? At this moment, a figure appeared nearby. With a cold voice, he said, he deserves to die. The others looked at the newcomer. It was Lang Luo, who was wearing his silver mask as usual. Speaker. He looked at the stooping Zhuyu with his hands on his back. It's you? Zhuyu exclaimed in shock. Lang Luo was not one to care about etiquette. He said, Zhuyu, your only accomplishment is that you rose to fame at a young age. You aren't fit to do as you please at the Evil Sky Pavilion yet. This statement was valid. Zhuyu merely became famous when she was young. In terms of age, she was younger than Lang Luo, let alone Ji Tiandao. Lang Luo had every right to criticize her. Zhuyu said, Lang Luo, I'm not afraid of you. What about me? Two other figures emerged as well at this moment. Hua Wudao pushed a crude wooden wheelchair as he slowly walked to the others. Zhuyu turned to look. Her wrinkled hands were clearly shaking. Pan Litian? Pan Litian broke out in laughter as he said, I didn't expect anyone to recognize me. You're the greatest elite of the Clarity Sect. Of course, I'd recognize you. Since you're aware of that, what gives you the courage to wreak havoc here? Although Pan Litian was seated on the wooden wheelchair, it did not impede him from looking at his surroundings. The limestone floor was cracked. How dare she cause trouble here? She must have a death wish. Greetings, Pavilion Master. Pan Litian cupped his fists toward Zhou. Hua Wudao bowed as well. Greetings, Pavilion Master. Although Zhuyu did not recognize Hua Wudao, with a glance, she could tell he was not a simple cultivator as well. She did not expect there to be so many elites in the Evil Sky Pavilion. Zhu Honggong laughed and said, you look formidable, old seniors. Ming Shirin was speechless. This dimwit is a professional in flattery and courting disaster. I should keep my distance. This is a sickness. It might be contagious. Zhu Honggong noticed that he had misspoken as well. Was he not indirectly slighting his master? He quickly slapped himself and said, I've made a mistake. Zhuyu frowned slightly. She was finding it more and more difficult to understand how these third-rate youngsters ended up becoming Ji Tiandao's disciples. They're not qualified. A female disciple walked slowly toward them from afar. She bowed at Zhou and said, the flying chariot is ready, Pavilion Master. Where are you going, Master? Ming Shirin asked, puzzled. Zhuyu. Zhou looked at her. What is it, Brother Ji? Zhuyu asked, perplexed. Since you're here, why don't we go together? Zhou turned around and left. Zhuyu found this strange. She did not know where he was going. However, she did not dwell on it and followed after him. Ming Shirin said, Old 8th, take Old 7th back to the Cave of Reflection. Huh? What do you mean by huh? You have no business here. You're thinking of tagging along? Fat chance. See, Wuya was not interested in this to begin with. He turned around and returned to the Cave of Reflection. Hua Wudao pushed the wooden wheelchair into Pan Zhong's hands. Then, he boarded the flying chariot with Lang Luo. Pan Litian needed to recuperate. There was no need for him to come along. When they were on the flying chariot, Ming Shirin volunteered. I'll man the helm. Where are we headed, Master? Little Yuan asked. The Luo Sect. Zhuyu was puzzled. She said, the Luo sect is one of the sects founded by Yuan'er Luo. What business do you have there, Brother Ji? Someone I know is passing away. I'd like to say my final goodbye, Lu Zhou said as he stroked his beard. Zhou Yushu was stunned by his words. Hua Wudao sighed heavily. Ming Shirin initially thought his master was going to give the Luo sect trouble. After all, the Yuan sect's 10 elders were among the forces of the 8 great sections. He did not expect them to be merely visiting Yuan'er Luo. Everyone could see how the relationship between Yuan'er Luo and the Evil Sky Pavilion was. Yuan'er Luo was even willing to surrender the memories sealed within the chessboard to the Evil Sky Pavilion. He would never order the 10 elders of the Yuan sect to attack the Evil Sky Pavilion. There must be more than meets the eye here. However, Zhou Yushu said, that young man, Ming Shirin, told me the Yuan sect's 10 elders were also involved in the attack on Golden Court Mountain. Aren't you walking right into their trap by going there now? Walking right into their trap? The 3 sects own 10 holy lands and 20 peaks which form formations that overlapped with each other. It's also defended by many elites. The Evil Sky Pavilion is from the Fiend Path. Aren't you worried that something might happen to us if we go there now? Whiz. When Primal Chi was channeled into the helm, the cloud-splitting chariot buzzed to life and rose into the air. Nobody entertained Zhou Yushu. Zhou Yushu felt awkward. With her identity and status, she would have been greatly respected in any other sect. However, in the Evil Sky Pavilion, she was more of a passerby compared to an actual passerby. It was one thing for Ji Tiandao to ignore her, what gave these 2 minor disciples the gall to look at her disdainfully from the corners of their eyes. As irritated as she was, as a senior who was quite advanced in age and an old friend of Ji Tiandao, she could not possibly hold this against the juniors. The flying chariot climbed into the air and exited Golden Court Mountain's barrier as it flew toward the southern regions of Great Yen. Shortly after the flying chariot left, a green-robed swordsman could be seen casually making his way to the foot of Golden Court Mountain. It did not take long before he arrived at the foot of the mountain. He stood there and looked up at Golden Court Mountain's barrier. Then, he looked at the sun and wiped the sweat from his face. Supposedly, an elite with his cultivation base should not be sweating at all. However, he enjoyed this trivial sensation very much now that he had regained his life. This was the only time when he felt that he was truly alive. Second senior brother, someone called out to him softly from the forest at the side. Yu Shangrong turned around in confusion before he saw a white-clad Yi Tianxin emerging from behind a huge tree. 6th junior sister? Second senior brother, I knew you'd come back alive, Yi Tianxin said. Thank you for your concern, junior sister. I'm lucky, that's all. Yu Shangrong smiled faintly. You could have worked on your timing, though. Master left in the morning. I don't know where he went. Ever since Lu Zhou wiped out the 7 great sects, Yi Tianxin intended to visit her master on the mountain. However, when she thought about the fact that she was no longer a disciple of the Evil Sky Pavilion, she could not find the courage to climb the mountain. Why aren't you going up? Yu Shangrong asked. It's fine. Yu Shangrong knew what was going through Yi Tianxin's mind. Do you plan on staying here forever? Yi Tianxin replied, I want to bid farewell before I head west. Chang Huang. MHM. It's a good thing to have a goal. I wish you a smooth journey, junior sister. Yu Shangrong cupped his fists at her. Then, he turned around and went up Golden Court Mountain. As she looked at Yu Shangrong's retreating back, Yi Tianxin felt slightly stunned. She felt that something was strange, but she could not quite put her fingers on it. She sighed. You're so cold, second senior brother. You didn't even try to persuade me to stay. The cloud-splitting chariot was speeding toward the southern regions of Great Yen. It left a tail in its wake like a meteor. Lu Zhou stood near Ming Shirin and looked at the mountains and the land. Zhou Yushu stood beside him and said, I have a question. Let's hear it. I've made some calculations. Your great limit. Before Zhou Yushu could finish speaking, Ming Shirin suddenly launched into a coughing fit. Zhou Yushu looked at Ming Shirin in confusion. Ming Shirin turned to look at her with a smile and said, Senior Zhou. My master is already at the 9-leaf stage. It's only natural for my master's life to be prolonged. Can't you see that my master looks younger than before? Lang Luo and Hua Wudao looked at Lu Zhou. Now that they studied Lu Zhou's appearance, they were shocked. Indeed, he seemed younger than before. Lang Luo was still all right, most of his hair was black. However, Hua Wudao's silver mane stood out now. Zhou Yushu made the comparison quietly. Her heart shuddered. Is he truly at the 9-leaf stage now? If he's truly at the 9-leaf stage, why isn't he summoning his avatar to dispel all doubts? In the Luo Sect's holy land, Heaven's Virtue. The 20 peaks stood in a unique arrangement as the clouds swirled around them. The layers of barriers formed the foundation of this location's defense. At this moment, the Luo Sect's youngest elder, the third elder, Lu Ping, paced about with a long face. He said as he looked at the other elders, Second elder, what do we do now? The Patriarch's great limit is near. Yet, the Yuan sect just had to join in the attack against the evil Sky Pavilion. Even the combined strength of all the elites from the 3 sects is no match against a 9-leaf cultivator. Before this, these other elders had frowned upon Lu Ping for being a lackey of the evil Sky Pavilion. However, they kept quiet now, having no words to retort. This was especially true for Shan Yunzheng, the second elder. In the end, Shan Yunzheng said, now's not the time for this. We should quickly think of a plan. If the evil Sky Pavilion comes, the 3 sects will have to face the consequences. The way I see it, we should join hands with the Tian sect and exclude the Yuan sect. This is the only way we can preserve our lives, one of the elders said. Whiz. 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 A strange sound rang from beyond the barrier. Looking up from Heaven's Virtue, ripples could be seen spreading across the huge barrier. The elders were shocked. Enemies incoming. Lu Ping squinted as he looked up. He started when he registered what he was seeing. His eyes were wide as he cried out. It's the evil Sky Pavilion's flying chariot. The others were frightened by his words. Some of them stumbled backward. Some of their knees weakened. Some even fell to the ground and sat there limply. The 9-leaf cultivator was here to seek revenge. Somebody help. The inevitable was finally here. With a grim expression, Lu Ping said, stay calm. The Yuan sect's mistake has nothing to do with the Luo or Tian sects. The others nodded and felt much calmer. Lu Ping stepped into the air and summoned his avatar. He passed through the barriers at lightning speed as he flew to meet the cloud-splitting chariot. A moment later, Lu Ping hovered in midair and said in a clear voice, greeting, old Senior Ji. Forgive me for the lack of hospitality. The flying chariot paused mid-flight. Ming Shirin had the best view. He saw Lu Ping hovering before the chariot. Hence, he beckoned him over. Come here. You man the helm. Gladly. Lu Ping was overjoyed. At the very least, this meant the evil Sky Pavilion was not here to seek revenge on the Luo sect. He flew over to the flying chariot. Seeing this, Zhou Yushu said, as expected of the 3 sects. They're well educated and have good manners. She was slightly dissatisfied and disgruntled when she recalled the treatment she received from the evil Sky Pavilion. After Lu Ping boarded the flying chariot, he looked at Lu Zhou and fell to his knees with a dull thud. He kowtowed and a loud thud rang in the air. He said, I'm greatly honored to be able to personally man the helm for you, old senior. Zhou Yushu was puzzled. She felt a stinging sensation on her face as though she had been slapped. Was this the pride of the 3 sects? That's enough. Come on. Ming Shirin gave Lu Ping a kick. Yes, right away. I've benefited much from this kick, Mr. Fourth. I shouldn't have wasted the old senior's time on such trivialities. Ming Shirin was speechless. Fuck. Is he old Eight's relative or something? Lu Ping hastily switched positions with Ming Shirin and manned the helm. The flying chariot passed through the barriers and landed on heaven's virtue with familiar movements. Zhou was surprised to see the elders and disciples of Luo sect gathered on the Holy Land. When Fengmiji, the sect master of the Luo sect, heard about this, he had sped all the way here without even tidying his hair. Leading the 10 elders, he bowed at the flying chariot. Fengmiji, the sect master of the Luo sect master, greets the old senior. Greetings, old senior. More and more disciples were flocking to the Holy Land at this moment and greeted the party from the Evil Sky Pavilion. Upon seeing this, Mingxian was filled with pride. He enjoyed this feeling very much. He could resist lifting his chin up and straightening his back even more. Lang Luo and Hua Wudao did not seem to be affected by this. However, they were filled with praise. There were no rules or reasons in the world. Reason was on the side with the bigger fist. Zhou remained on the flying chariot, stunned. She had experienced many things and was knowledgeable. Even saints of the Confucian sects were rarely given this treatment. Master, look. There's so many of them. Little Yuan was not affected by the welcoming party. She merely liked a lively scene. Throngs of cultivators swarming toward the Holy Land in big groups. The square formations formed a huge energy zone that was approaching the heaven's virtue.